Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the DC's Legends of Tomorrow season finale. A great season finale. No, screw that. An awesome season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, obviously, we're picking up with Gary landing in, 30,000 BC. So he's with Caveman, and he's like, cool, I just need a door, which it didn't even cross my mind. I was like, he's trying to make a door. I was like, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, it does work. I mean, I guess as long as it's that actual door, it doesn't matter. I mean, what is a door if not just wood anyway? So it's like, yeah, I guess it makes sense. But I love that actually worked out for him. But I thought it was kind of interesting as we got little peeks into Gideon little by little. Like, she's correcting time, but sadly she's having to do it by herself. And she's got evil Gideon whispering in her ears. I love all this time traveler stuff too, like, because the Legends never crossed paths with other time travelers with the exception of the Legion of Doom, but that was also a special case because, well, they had a speedster on their side that allowed all that time travel to be possible. But yeah, like all these time travelers are just popping up out of nowhere. This was a season of time traveling because, like, they never really encountered any before now, like, except for like the Time Bureau. That's like closest thing, but I guess it's like, no, that isn't exactly, you get what I'm saying. That's more of an organization. Like, we have individuals kind of doing their own thing, trying to protect and save time in their own way. But I love the fact is that it's like, right, we kind of get peeks into everyone's life, and they're just kind of like, all right, little by little, they're popping in like every week, meeting up. And I thought it was kind of interesting how we only made it like a month into it. Like, Nate hadn't written his book. Spooner didn't talk about it too much. She was just, Texas is Texas. You have Astra being like, yeah, like, you know, she's run hell. Like, you know, politics is pretty much the same thing, just like uglier clothes or something like that. You have Ava and Sarah bouncing back and forth about like the decision on whether, it's like we're thinking about having the baby. So, but then eventually Ava changes her mind on the whole thing, and she's just kind of like, right, I've come down to like 50 donors and everything, and you collab with me on this list and everything. I was like, oh, that's so amazing. And then like Sarah gets cut on her hand. I was like, ooh, I thought that was a time thing. I was like, whoa, is it because all this stuff with Gideon? Like, did something go wrong? Did Sarah? I was like, no, because I feel like if things had changed for Sarah, like everything would have changed. But I thought, you know, time isn't like, what's the word I'm looking for? Time doesn't all, like, it's very fluid, and it takes a long time for it to fully solidify. So I thought that's kind of where we were going with this. So I thought that's the direction this was going. So I was like, oh, did time change and it's slowly changing, or like what's happening? I feel like in that particular case, when it's your own timeline changing like that, it would be like instantaneous. It wouldn't be like slow like that. Well, I mean, to be fair, it's like, well, slowly Marley McFly was, you know, wiping himself out of existence when he made it so that his mom and dad didn't get together. Like, that was a slow process, but, you know, once again, I don't know. I thought that was, I didn't know what to expect from that. And then Gary's like, oh, well, Gary shows up and they're just like, yeah, Gideon tried to kill me. It's evil Gideon tried to kill me. It's like, and I love Ava's like, what did you do? And it's like, what do you mean, what did I do to make evil Gideon kill me? It's like, because I found out that Gwen got sent home with a robot, which Gwen tried to save his Alan, ended up getting killed because, right, Alan's death is a fixed point, which also answered the question I'd asked previously about, like, well, because I'd wondered, like, at the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, like, there was, like, that, the little spot all those time travelers got together and stuff. I was wondering if there was one at every fixed point. Probably only that one. I mean, you never know. But at the very least, like, there are other fixers. I mean, it's like this time organization that kind of dictates a lot of this stuff. It makes you wonder who's behind it. I was wondering whether or not we would get introduced to them, and it's like, yeah, it seems like we're potentially setting them up to be the next, like, adversaries or antagonists of the next season, potentially. But Gary ends up also finding out that Sarah's pregnant because he can smell like what she's kind of giving off this, and it's like, she's like, no, it's impossible. It's like, well, you are part alien, so it's like, cool. It's like, because of exchanging of saliva, and I love that Gary's like, wait, you guys don't use protection for that? And it's like, oh, that's, and then Sarah's like, no, I can't be pregnant. She's like, you know what? We're going to rewind this whole conversation. It's like, yeah, we're going to save Alan. And he's like, yeah, and protect your baby. It's just kind of like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And so she's trying to keep that low key, because at first I was like, wait, is that why your powers aren't working? And then later on Gary confirms it. Like, yeah, it's like, I'm curious, like the moment she gives birth, do the powers transfer over to the baby? I wonder, does that happen to the species? Is that their way to be like, right, we're going to protect the young by making them invulnerable, but the parent becomes vulnerable now? So the question is Sarah going to be permanently vulnerable, or is it just going to be throughout the duration of the pregnancy, and then eventually her powers will come back, is what I'm curious about. Because we might be having almost like a little bit of like a Haley, Klaus / Hope situation going on. So, luckily, Zari kept one of the time travel things, because she was like, right, you never know when you're going to have to like get away from like the paparazzi, or, say, it's like, right, because out of anyone, she was the most reluctant to kind of one of the most reluctant ones to give up the whole superhero thing. So she did keep, hold on to it. So I thought that was pretty neat. And luckily they go back to help Gwen, which he's like, right, if you're here, that means I died, didn't it? Yeah, sorry, bud. So it's like, oh, okay. So, yep, it's like, this is a fixed point. He's like, so that's what happened. So now I'm doubly screwed, because someone's going to constantly kill me. But he's like, no, we don't got to worry about it. Luckily we have someone that can't die. And Sarah's like, right. I even love later on when she kind of when everything kind of went wrong, her hormones kind of kicked in, and she was like, oh no, and yeah, we're relying on a robot, which we had the best luck with robots. And it's just like, because you never see Sarah like that, so it's just like, oh, poor Sarah, just like the hormones are like getting to her. Because I love Gary like protected her, like when Gwen's time machine was coming out, he was like, oh, and he pushed her out of the way. I thought he was trying to get everyone out of the way. It's like, no, of course you're going to get her out of the way specifically because the baby and everything, but also because, well, she's not invulnerable right now. So they also ended up running into Gideon. Sadly, once again, it's kind of what Ava said, like, it's been a month for the Legends, but because of being in a time stream and everything, like, who knows how long it's been for Gideon. It probably has been years of slowly having that, her way of viewing things. Like, it's like, right, the first person she stopped, she's like, yeah, I gave them a stern warning, because it's like, yeah, she's just like, right, it is kind of messed up. I made it, I kept time the way it was supposed to be, and now it's going to be another 133 years until women are able to vote. So she kind of felt bad, because she's like, right, kind of believe what the Legends believed. They're like, yeah, like, time should be a little bit more malleable, making, changing things for the better, but it is also like, well, you don't know what the ripple effects are going to be. But slowly but surely, Gideon be on her own gets slowly chipped away, like that good in her, the legend in her slowly gets chipped away, because she's also angry, because she feels like, right, as she says later on, she sacrificed everything, she stayed behind on her own so that everyone else could have a future. But it's like, yeah, you kind of sold us on the false goods. You gave Gwen a fake Alan. Evil Gideon almost killed Gary. He's like, wait, she killed you? Tried to kill you? I didn't know. I thought you left. It's like, oh, you didn't know. She's like, yeah, but she must have had a reason. It's like, what? To try and murder me? It's like, yeah, it's about protecting the time. I was like, no, Gideon. And in that moment, Astra was just so, like, disappointed in her. But Spooner was like, no, like, all we have to do is remind Gideon of who she is. Like, we're not in this alone. We can get to her, Which I love that it is Spooner and Astra, because it's all coming full circle. They were there together when it came to Gideon before, and now they're the ones to help her now. And especially because evil Gideon's like, because our Gideon, she's like feeling so heartbroken about everything. She doesn't like the way people, like the Legends are looking at her, like her family, the people she loves and care about, looking at her like she thinks like, oh, they hate me, like, and it's just like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. So evil Gideon's like, cool, I made a new android. It's the best android yet. Fact of the matter is, you can implant, like, remove all the good stuff, all those human emotions, ew, disgusting. But she's like, but what about the good times and the good memories? It's like, yeah, but that's always going to hold you back, because you're always going to be vulnerable to get your heart broken again. I don't want that. You don't want that either. And it's like, she doesn't. Luckily, Astra and Spooner were able to get to her in time. But regardless, it was really sweet, them kind of holding each other. I even love later on when Gideon was like, yeah, you guys are the best mom and friend someone, in her situation could ask for, which is super sweet. I love that they basically had to deal with. It was very. I'd already referenced it earlier in the season how like, oh, this season felt very Terminator-esque, and now it's like where it definitely was with evil Gideon now being in a robot, especially when Spooter blew off her face and you saw like the mechanical stuff, and then it slowly like healed itself. I was like, that's so sick, dude. It's like which also like. From once again, just one of those cinematography things of just that moment where like she was coming towards them. Astra has both Spooner and Gideon, and then they fall backwards, and then they like come up from. I was like, that's such a cool like transition. I was like, that was sick. Once again, like I think if I ever really got into it, I could be a cinematography nerd because I like the tricks of a camera and just like the things that they do, like that editing wise. I'm like, that's so dope. Like that was just such a dope, like falling backwards to them rising up. Like that was such a dope transition. I love stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's so trippy and awesome. At the same time, they're kind of dealing with all that. They've got to deal with the Fixer. So it's like, cool, how do we get, like, someone's attention? And lo and behold, who's the Fixer? Donald freaking Faison playing a character named Mike. I knew he was in this episode because I saw something, like, I want to say last week saying that he was going to be in this episode. I was like, I kind of wish I didn't know that he was going to be in this episode, but I also didn't know under what capacity. So when he shows up, I was like, oh my god, you're the Fixer in this time, and he's playing golf. I'm like, wow, that's so interesting. You're very different from Thawne. Thawne was very serious about what he had to do, which is also kind of crazy to think about. Like, yeah, right, Mike's the one who ended up shooting Gwen the first time, so like that's kind of. But he's up there playing golf. It's like, yeah, I figured I had to squeeze some in, and then he runs into the legends, and I love the whole thing that they have written on the hands. Please don't kill us. They're like, don't kill us. And then Sarah has on her hand, please. And they're like, oh my god. They're like, you didn't kill us. He's like, well, you guys did say please. So they had to sit down, and they're like, oh god. Zara's like, I thought that guy was dead. He's like, oh no, he is dead. No one's going to find him until like tomorrow or something like that. But I figure like, why let all this kind of go to waste, which is super morbid. I'm like, dude, I love it. And so. Right, he ends up talking to him because he knows the legends. Because the legends already had a little bit of a reputation beforehand. Because it turns out he's from the future, which is interesting. Turns out that's super important later on, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But I love the fact is that it's like, okay, he knows all of them. Even, it's like, wait, you know Gary? It's like, yeah, Gary, finally, Gary's getting some love. Which I think is, it's like, I'm sure there's plenty of fans of the show who love Gary, but Gary doesn't get no shine. Everyone puts down Gary. Gary's the best. But I love that everyone's just like, oh my god, wait, you know me? It's like, yeah, you know Gary? It's like, yeah, of course, I know all you guys. But he didn't recognize Gwen. He's like, oh wow, you're the guy who started all time. He's like, wow, I thought you were just some random time traveler. I didn't realize I was killing the father of all time. And I love that it's like, right, let's help with the whole Alan thing. He's like, yeah, but I was given particular orders to stay here and stuff. And he says, I'm really good at my job, so I have to keep this up. But then they start saying, like, right, though, that there is some wiggle room around this because no one else has tried to change time here, because if they did, they would basically be undoing all the time. And I love that. It's like, yeah, it'd be a paradox. And in that moment, Mike's like, wait a minute. So that means this time would always automatically kind of fix itself. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, so meaning my entire time being here, it's pointless because we have no idea how long it's been. He's been stuck at this time. He's like, oh, they sent me here because I'm the best. No, they sent me here because this is a job that meant nothing. I was used, and they're like, Mike, it's good. I was like, oh, he's having a bit of an existential crisis right now, and I love it. So that's pretty dope. So he's decided, all right, he's going to help them with the whole Alan thing. Sadly, while everything's going on a Wave Rider, it's like, how do we stop evil Gideon? And it's just kind of like, right, we use her programming against her. Because I love that whole situation, because essentially, I skipped over it, but I thought was a really important conversation, is that obviously a captain in her AI isn't enough. That's why Rip brought on the OG legends in the first place. And a human isn't supposed to learn from the AI is supposed to learn from the human. I mean, that's how Gideon became what she became, because she learned from all the time with Rip and the other legends. It all made her grow into who she is. But sadly, this AI is very stuck in her ways, and she wasn't going to change. So I love that Gideon basically used her protocol against her. It's like, cool, by basically making the time Wave Rider expose itself to, like, everyone in 1916 is like, cool, now you're the anomaly, so she has to kill herself. But Gideon's like, cool. Like in very legend fashion, didn't think this through. So they're all going to die. I was like, whoa, we're going to like rewind time to stop like what's going to happen. And Astra ended up protecting them. And I love, once again, comes full circle where she kind of made Gideon in an accidental byproduct of trying to piece the Wave Rider back together with magic. She does it this time because she protects all of them with her magic while also piecing the Wave Rider back together. I was like, this is so sick. And then the Wave Rider comes back. It's like, oh, that's awesome. And then immediately Mike took off with the Wave Rider. I was like, you dick. Oh. And it's like, don't worry, we have another time machine. And Mike blew it up. And just Nate's like, nice, Mike. Real nice. I was like, cool. So this is happening. Sarah's pregnant. It's like, all right. But Nate decides, like, right, I will protect Alan. He's like, yeah, you know, I got this. I don't need luck. Dude, when Nate went through that mustard gas and it was like, okay, I was like, what's going to happen? Like, he's going to lose focus and he can't steel up. It's like, no, it started eating through his steel and it's like, whoa. I was like, this is bad. That's bad. That's bad. He's getting chemical burns. But despite everything, he's like, he was able to block a little bit before it all dissipated. And he's like, Alan, he's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to get you out of here. And even without his powers, he proved himself to be a hero. But the problem is, though, and the byproduct of it is, he ended up, I didn't think that was possible. He lost his powers now, which I think speaks volumes if you think about Nate, like how much he went through because he always wanted to be a hero, and especially when it came to his powers in the beginning, like how excited he was to have those powers and use them, and now they're gone. But at the very least, he might be out of his powers, but at least he did what he wanted. He might have lost his powers, but he did it in the process of saving someone. He did that without his powers. He was just a regular dude out in the field, you know? Because he always had the safety net of his powers. But it's like, yeah, it seems like the mustard gas forever eroded away like his skin. Like, maybe if he was able to put it away in time, but if he had put it away, it would have actually ate away his actual skin. So it seems like, based on what that's seeming, it seems like his powers are gone forever. I'm like, that's quite a few legends that walk away without their powers. I mean, to be fair, Jax walked away without his power because, like, Firestorm doesn't exist anymore, at least on this Earth. But, you know, he found his own way to help out without getting too caught up in that. So, but now Nate wanted to figure out life without, outside of being a hero, after being a hero. I was like, wait, are you telling me? And he's like, yeah, so the book he wrote, it makes you wonder now in retrospect, it's like, is the book he wrote, I mean, is that just kind of further proof of like, right, the future is changed. Their futures aren't what they thought they were going to be because they were going to go on the paths that evil Gideon had set forth for, well, the others had set forth for them, but now like they've kind of denounced those futures and now they're kind of going in their own route. So I was like, wait, I didn't know he was leaving, like, you know, maybe it had come up before now, like maybe it was kind of I prefer never knowing ahead of time if someone's leaving a show. Like, I'd rather it be like something I find out after the fact. So it seems like this is like the last time we'll be seeing Nate. You know, there's always a possibility in the future of small appearances in some shape or form. Might also be the last time it seems like it's also the last time we'll see Zari 1.0 either, because Zari gave him the totem, which also might explain why they don't have it. Because it still could flow into like, okay, this is the future that they. So I'm curious what they're going to do. Because they did kind of give up their totem powers in that process, but that's interesting. I wonder what they're going to do going forward about that whole situation. But it's like, yeah, no Zari 1.0 either. I mean, probably wouldn't have as... Well, because she'll always be... They always know probably, like... I don't know, like, am I misreading that situation? Like... Or is it like... Because I don't remember they still have the whole 2 separate totems thing. There's just one still. I'm blanking on it. I've never paid enough attention to that detail. Because like, I'm about to say, like, does Behrad technically still have... It's like, no, it's all, like, one totem now, isn't it? It's just one totem and not like 2. I was about to say, does Behrad like have one, and would they flip back and forth between that, but they gave one to Nate? Because I was like, they made not much of a big deal out of just giving him that, and he's disappearing inside of the totem with it. Because it's not like, oh, it fell after he went in there. It's like, no, like, that's why I'm like, maybe like that future Nate, once again, I'm just timey-wimey stuff. I was like, could it be that future Nate ended up, writing that book afterwards, and just to not, talk about everything he went through. He only talked about the legend stuff and not the life he ended up living after the hero stuff. I don't know. Because that's what always Nate's biggest issue from beforehand was like, right, he was talking about everyone else's heroism. He really didn't really talk about himself. It's kind of what he kind of got from the book he supposedly writes in the future. So what I also thought was interesting about this episode too is that Gwen ended up seeing himself, and I thought was so fascinating because he was like, oh, like all I have to do is like wait, because he's like, I know me, I'm gonna freeze, I'm gonna be a coward, that's all. But in that moment, when that guy Reese was with him and died, he's like, please don't leave me alone. In that moment, Gwen holds him and just like recite that thing with me. And then Gwen's like, I don't remember this. I remember looking down at Reese's body, but that was it. I guess it was such a traumatic thing. Reese probably like, because he blamed himself. Alan's death, everything with Reese, like he blamed himself because it's like, I guess because he was there with Reese, either just the trauma of like being there in someone's final moments and then not being there with Alan, maybe all that triggered something to block that memory from, because he thought of himself like, oh, I froze, and that's why he's like, no, you didn't freeze, you were there for someone in their final moments. And it's just because he for so long like played it over and over again in his head that he's like, right, like all his doubts about himself, believing himself to be a coward, in that moment he rewrote it in his head about like, oh, I froze. It's like, no, you didn't. You were there for somebody and you just didn't give yourself enough credit. You believed that you were a coward and froze. It's like, no, you were brave. You were by someone's side when they died. And like I said, I think his just guilt over Alan's death and just like that kind of took precedence over everything, and he just kind of rewrote his memories to fit that narrative. Because at first I was like, could it be that, like, I was like, they didn't show it in the episode, but I was like, because Gary was like, oh, I'm gonna make sure you don't get killed, make sure everything kind of goes the way it's supposed to. But I was about to say, could it be that Gary saved him and then wiped his memory? Is that why he doesn't remember? But just like, no, I think Gary just kind of stuck to the shadows to make sure he was okay, got to where he was supposed to go. But I think that ended up helping Gwen kind of get some closure to realize, like, wait, things kind of weren't what I thought they were, I mean, he's proven time and time again that he isn't, that he can be brave. He's shown that strength time and time again, which I thought was kind of beautiful. So, at the end of it all, they were able to save Alan. They left the fake Alan behind, so everything ended up ultimately working out. So it's like, cool. It seems like everything worked out in the end. Ava and Sarah super happy about the baby. Obviously, they've got their Gideon back as well. So, and then, lo and behold, Mike shows up, and you're like, "Wow, Mike!" And just everyone's happy to be back on the Wave Rider. They're like, "Yeah, we'll build another time machine. Take roughly 6 months." And it's like, "Oh my God, yes, we have the Wave Rider back." So he's like, "Because I need the Wave Rider. I needed it. I was trying to play tough, and no, I need it." So they're back on board. I was like, "Oh, this is going to go sideways." It's not Mike there. It's the people who sent him here, aren't they? And it's like, all right, it is Mike. And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I had some things to do, people to save. I'm like, what's up with that? And he's got handcuffs on him. I'm like, wait, what? And it's like, yep, it's a setup. And it's like, they're here, the legends. And so they're getting arrested. So it's like the Time Bureau, but even worse and probably even bigger sticklers when it comes to this whole time travel thing. So now they're being arrested for time crimes. But they're like, yeah, get down, Booster. I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, he's like, hey, it's not just Booster, it's Booster Gold. I cannot tell you, I literally screamed, what the fuck? I lost my shit. Like, just telling you how nerdy I am. I paced back and forth in my room because I was that excited when I saw that scene. I was like, that's an amazing reveal, and I'm so glad I didn't get that spoiled for me. I was like, oh my God, him being from the future and everything, him kicking it with the legends. He's like, oh, you guys are going to be seeing me for a while. For one, it's pretty dope to have Donald Faison in the Arrowverse. That's pretty dope that he's a character in the DC universe now. Booster Gold, that's freaking amazing. Two, it makes perfect sense for him to kick it with the legends. Now, I'm not well versed in all of things Booster Gold, but if like Booster Gold is one of those characters I've always wanted in the Arrowverse. In fact, I think I made a video years ago where I talked about like, what was it like? I want to say it was like a bunch of characters I would have liked to see be in the Arrowverse, and I think it was many, many years ago. I want to say he was one of the ones on my list, was like Booster Gold. I think I even said at the time, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I want to say I said that it would be like either the Flash or Legends were going to be the perfect show for him to be on because it's about time travel. Especially with the Legends because they've interacted with the future. But I figured like both shows are the only ones that mainly deal with time travel that they would be perfect shows. I think I said Flash and Legends. I don't think I just said Legends, but oh my god, Donald Faison playing him is amazing. But the reason why I also love it too, it's like, once again, I'm not well versed in the character. I think the character is interesting just from the little bit I know of it. My understanding of the character, and this might be a very old, like, canon to the character, because the character, I'm sure, like, a lot of characters' stories have changed from, like, a golden era to a silver age, or even, like, you know, New 52 Rebirth. A lot of characters' backgrounds have probably changed over the years in the continuities of the comics, but my understanding of the character's backstory is that basically he was a football player. I want to say specifically it was a football player, but basically he was kind of a celebrity, but I think it didn't work out. So what he decided to do was he was going to start time traveling and become a hero. Basically, it was like, oh, because I'm from the future, I'm going to show up and I'm going to save the day and become a hero in my own right. So he's kind of a bit of a loser. Perfect match with the misfits that are the Legends. Now, the reason why I'm saying, like, I'm not sure if this is, like, more modern versions of the character, because my understanding of that version of the character is based on him in Smallville. Because I do know, like, because I think I talked about it, too, like, because I know him and Blue Beetle are pretty tight, which we know there is a Blue Beetle movie happening. Still doesn't mean they can't always do like a Booster Gold thing in that regard, but I know that's always been something like blue, because like those are like the best buds that people have always wanted to see like together. Like I think there was even talks of making like a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle TV show or something like that. Because that episode I'm referencing of Smallville about Booster Gold also dealt with Blue Beetle because they're usually that tight in the comics. But like some of Smallville's stuff typically pulled from like older continuity. I mean, once again, like Smallville was made in like obviously the earlier 2000s, and that was like the final season. That was like 2010, so like that was over 10-ish years ago. So it's like, of course, that like a lot's changed continuity wise in the comics. So maybe that was still true for his character at the time, or maybe that was an older version of the character that they were using for the continuity of Smallville. But just like they used the, I'm going on a whole diatribe, I do apologize, but like how they handled Connor, Superboy, in Smallville is the older version of that character where it's like he's part Superman, part Lex Luthor, which they do the same thing for Connor in Titans, so that's still applicable, but more often than not, it's the Young Justice version of it where he's Superman and another alien species is the typical, I think that's the more current Superboys at least. Well, at least when it comes to Connor, because I think Superboy, there's the whole Jonathan situation, Superman's actual son. Regardless, but I love that, and it's like, cool, they're getting arrested. He's like, we're going to be spending time together. It's like, we lost Nate, but potentially we got two people because we've got Mike now, who knows all there is to know about the Legends, which I say is going to be a perfect fit, but also Alan, so he's going to be sticking with them for a while, so that's definitely going to be interesting, and they're going to be sticking with Gwen for a while, so going to definitely be fascinating. It's also like, right, we're kind of like narrowing down like how many people actually have powers on this team anymore. Only person that's fully powered up is Astra. Obviously, Spooner still kind of has her empath abilities. Other than that, once again, we don't know like whether or not Sarah's powers will ever fully come back. I mean, Gary's still the alien he is, but they're all getting arrested and everything, and I'm like, and they're just groaning because it's just like, of course we'd find ourselves in this situation. So we're getting locked up now. So like I said, this was a lot of fun, and I legitimately lost my shit with that Booster Gold reveal. I was like, that's so dope. Once again, getting more Donald Faison too, because I'm a big fan of Donald Faison, so I was like super pumped. Like, did not know that you weren't just some like, because I no wonder he takes even more issue with that. Because he's like, oh, I want to time travel, save people. He wanted to be a hero. Like, so when he gets allocated to this job, it makes you, we know how Thawne got there. I wonder, did Mike try to do the superhero thing, got busted, and now they're like, cool, you tried to do it again, and now we're going to bust you even harder. So, time prisons, whatever that's going to look like, that's definitely going to be interesting. I wonder, are these people going to have it? I mean, the Time Masters are gone, but I'm wondering, is this organization going to have some ties or connections to them? At the time of me recording this, it has not been confirmed whether or not Legends of Tomorrow is coming back for season 8. Don't do this to me. I need there to be a season 8, especially with this reveal. Oh, God. And then also looking into it, it does confirm that this will be, like, at least as a series regular, he is leaving. And it also did remind us, like, right, next to Sarah and, like, obviously Mick, who were, like, the OGs that were left, Nate's the closest OG left because he's been a part of the show since season 2. And it's like, right, it's kind of crazy. It's just like, wow, just like another OG member, kind of like OG 2.0 member going. But, dude, either way, like I said, as a series regular, there's always room because the Arrowverse, there's always a possibility for future appearances and stuff like that. I hope the show comes back for season 8. Please give us season 8, because I'm assuming the theme of season 8 is going to be, I guess, time travelers. I guess that's going to be theme. Once again, I love that out of any show, this one has a new theme every season, and I'm so excited to see what, hopefully it does get a season 8, because I want to know what season 8's theme going to be. Is it going to be time travelers? Are they going to be forced to, is the Legends are they going to potentially get separated? All of them end up being at fixed points that they have to guard themselves, and they're going to try and work to get back together. What prison life is potentially going to look like. What shenanigans will the Legends get into next season? What characters will we meet? Once again, this is going to be a lot for Alan because his mind's going to get blown, because it's like, cool, so what are they going to do about that? Because things have already kind of played out. So they're going to try to undo that. I don't think they could at this point in time because of the Legends tampering. Why now? Like, they've never come after the Legends before now, but I guess it's like, right, you're screwing with more than just, like, regular time. You're screwing with fixed points. So, oh, I forgot. There was also, like, the cyborg Nate who basically got stuck at the Duke Ferdinand thing. So that's why, like, there's always room, like, if they ever decide to, like, circle back to that, you could get, like, more, the actor's name is Nick Zano, I believe, right? Who plays Nate. Could always get more of him in that regard. Like I said, just in smaller capacities, but still. The closing of one chapter and the opening of another is just wild. The show. I love this show so much because it's just so weird and so awesome. Like I said, fingers crossed, hoping for a season 8 because I'm so excited to see what they do with a season 8. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.